Well, welcome in. We're just gonna start just like this. I didn't
Wow.
even roll the intro because I'm so excited about this weekend in Georgia recruiting. If this sequence of events from Georgia's recruiting staff and everyone that was on campus this weekend doesn't light your fire, you're probably a Tennessee fan. Rusty,
Man.
Bruce, and Palmer. Let's talk about it, guys.
Well, it was insane. I mean, it was crazy, right? It all fired up early on Friday, and I know, Dylan Raiola, Joseph Jonah Ajanye was there. Justin Williams was there on Friday. Jeremiah Smith arrived on Friday. So the stars were out bright and early. But then everything just got insane on Saturday morning. We thought, I thought I was going to get able to sleep in a little, just, retweet a couple pictures from a scavenger hunt. Real nice occasion. Not the case at all.
You get a pre-8 a.m. call from Jake Roos. I'm seeing if it's collect number one or something's really going on.
That's the hospital normally.
I was concerned.
Something was really going on. And, there was some discussion on whether that would take place. And Chad Simmons and I had a discussion, I believe, on Thursday night. And we were we heard that potentially could be happening. So we did some checking, and luckily, that Roos was on top of it Saturday morning, and Jake Rowe, he is about a Waffle House and a Piggly Wiggly jog away, and he got there right in time and did a hell of a job covering that event. But it was something we had to make sure was going to happen, but it just so happened in Jake Rowe's hometown of good old Jefferson, Georgia.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works out.
Meanwhile, I woke up, but without an alarm to 13 missed text messages, and was like, "Oh, I got to get to work." Luckily, there was no Palmer Tom's get your butt there.
No, it was something else, man. It really was. It was crazy. You just don't. Rusty, maybe you got a comp for something like this, man. I mean, this is year 8 or 9 for me in this, and there's not really anything that's ever happened like this on a visit weekend like this, that they've gone out and basically sought out a guy. I mean, they took the thing to Sammy Brown is what it really, I felt like, boiled down to in a lot of cases.
There's some connection with Dylan Raiola's personal quarterback coach. He works with one of the Jefferson staff's son. So there's some connection there. That's how Dylan was able to set up everything and use that school. Now, it just so happened to be Sammy Brown. That doesn't hurt. But
yeah,
Dylan Raiola has a connection to Jefferson through his personal quarterback coach, who also does some guys in Georgia. And that's kind of what I heard is how how everything started. So, Georgia can't have anything to do with anything like that. If Dylan Raiola goes out and does that, then you sit in the office and say, "Hey, y'all have fun and be careful and get back here for this scavenger hunt." And that's the way it went. It looks like that's the way it went down.
And you're probably also, patting yourself on the back a little bit there for saying, "Hey, we got a self-starter in this kid." Somebody that is going to be proactive with. Not only when he gets on campus as a recruit, when he gets on campus as a player, but he's going to be proactive, before he, is under their watch.
Yeah, I'm not going to take too much away from Jake Rowe. We're hoping that at some point he'll pop on here tonight.
Yeah, he'll be on. He's on daddy duty.
He commented on the fact that what was one of the things that really impressed him was that Raiola was the guy just kind of leading the thing, dude. I mean, it was like he was doling out marching orders and everybody was looking to him for what to do. I think the leadership really caught Jake's eye while he was out there. And, we're talking about a casual throwing session. This is not, organized practice. This is some dudes getting together, but Dylan Raiola was running the show, man.
Old school Sandlot. Hey, y'all show up over here. We're going to throw, I'm going to bring the ball and we'll get together. You guys think about that. Whoa.
Was that him?
Copper Hill, Tennessee, baby.
Oh, man.
I thought that was Rose Saturday morning.
I didn't realize Roos was was also on his front porch in this camera angle.
Oh, you'd hear a lot more if I was on the front porch. I promise you that. Buddy.
Have y'all seen anything like that though? Anything similar to what Raiola
on a
did?
visit weekend that I can recall. That was what I was.
The only thing I could possibly compare it to was one of those dog nights where like Trevor Lawrence was there throwing, Rashad Gary was in Athens working out. You're talking about that's a major camp. But as far as seeing, I'd actually text Sammy Brown's dad. I said, damn, that looked like the Chargers mini camp over there today. And he just said, just blown away, and he's obviously a coach at Jefferson. So he was there with his son and his younger son, Max, who just received his first Division I offer before he gets into high school as a linebacker at South Florida. So, it's just one of those deals. I don't know if you guys remember, I ran up on Jacob Eason throwing with Kyle Davis and some guys one time over at Emerson Point. Nobody was there.
You're now you're drawing some names out of the pocket there with Kyle Davis, man.
At the time, that was 2 5-stars, and they really didn't know each other. So they had met through a coach, and they met up in Cartersville, Georgia, Emerson, Georgia, and Easton's like, hey, if you want to stop by this morning, I'm going to throw. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going. So, but you multiply that times 10 with the amount of players. That's kind of what I ran into with something like that before.
And then before we move on to the scavenger hunt at large, let's check in with Dylan Raiola and what he had to say about recruiting for head coach Kirby Smart.
It's been awesome, being able to recruit for a guy like Coach Smart and the rest of their staff. Staff's incredible. And, just for me to get out here and throw with these guys, just to see what it's like to be out here in Georgia, around some committed guys and, have some key pieces that we want to add. So, just making that a priority, we wanted to do it. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Key pieces that they wanted to add. When you look at how this weekend went on campus, it wasn't just this workout. That's what's getting all the lightning rod attention. Dylan said he wants to find out what it's like in Georgia. It's hot. It was a hot weekend to be on campus in Athens, but with all of the selfies that Palmer put together in a social media piece, all these guys that are on campus, not just to do this workout, but to get a taste of what it's like to be in the Classic City and to be a part of a pretty special recruiting class. What was some of your takeaways from that event and everything that went on with Coach Smart and all of the Georgia assistants?
Star-studded. I was going to say star-studded cast. Palmer, you put the piece together.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, and it's obviously we had talked about it beforehand, but it's a little bit of something that you'd be surprised that you're able to draw this kind of attention to. High schoolers typically aren't all too eager to do something like this, and clearly it's something that works because you saw Dan Lanning take it out west and do it at Oregon this same weekend. But yeah, star-studded group. In that picture, the one that we're looking at there with
that's crazy that Nikar and Dylan Raiola and JJ Smith all ended up on one team. Like some of the other ones felt like they were position-based teams, and somehow Raiola and Smith got to be together on a team. That's weird.
Hey, he was the only quarterback in town. You had to throw him with his wide receivers. Sokovia White gets left out though. Who was the team captain there? Was it Dylan Raiola or was it Andrew Smart?
I had to be Andrew Smart.
It had to be.
Dude, look how hard he looks in that photo, dude. He's not playing.
Word on the street was he was in Bobo's butt all day. Come on, come on, let's go.
What's even better is the mic.
I wonder where he gets it from.
I like the theory that he's Georgia's leading recruiter for this class, and I'm kind of starting to buy into it with the way that look at how those guys have embraced him.
How about this though?
In the summertime, he goes and runs with them, which those guys have to respect. A 10-year-old kid is out there running sprints at 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning with them.
Yeah, it's probably insulting if they can't keep up. It looks like they didn't have to hunt for Coach Smart too hard though. They're on a football field.
I would imagine Coach Smart made himself quite available for wherever Jeremiah Smith was. I don't think they had to search real hard.
Yeah.
I got a feeling the scavenger hunt may have been a little bit rigged in Jeremiah Smith's favor, if I'm being honest with you.
What's up, Jake Rowe? We had some people talking smack in here about your 40 times.
The word was you were running down the hill at Jefferson probably at about a 4.65 Saturday morning.
Hey man, I wore flip flops. I didn't even break stride, dude. I didn't run. I had the best 8-year-old assistant anybody could have asked for.
Awesome.
I told her, I said, "Hey, grab them scrambled eggs. We got to hit the road." And she did. She did, dude. She grabbed her, threw some jellies on. Threw some little shoes on, and she hit the road, man. She, I forgot my tripod in the car. I was like, "Hey, can you get my tripod?" She goes,
"You forgot your tripod? No way."
Yeah, but it was in the car. She said, "What's a tripod?" And I said, "It's that metal thing that you put a camera on. Please hurry."
I don't have time to explain this to you.
Hey, and that's the last thing I had to explain, dude. She was awesome, but it was a good time going out there, man. I was really impressed. And I told my wife this. She goes, "What are you doing? Like, what's going on?" And sometimes you just sound real stupid, explaining some of this stuff to the people and people you love. And I told her, I said, this is why these kids are where they are.
Yeah.
Like they could have been having, a big brunch. I mean, I know what Jake Rowe would have been doing. I'd have been eating biscuits and gravy.
I'm going to tell you that is the third time you have mentioned you could have been having a big breakfast.
Yeah,
you really kept hammering that home with those kids.
Does anybody think that anything else?
Man, why aren't you having a big breakfast right now?
Yeah. Does anybody think about a free big breakfast? By the way, let's get Homer Thomas involved in this thing too.
And if you're having spent a Friday night in Athens, maybe shaking off a hangover too.
Yeah. None of these guys though.
Allegedly.
Nobody there had gone out. Jesus.
Nobody
Christ,
drinks in Athens until they're 21.
Absolutely.
But no, I mean, it's but they could have been, I mean, anything, right? I mean, they could have been, getting all the attention in the world or getting wined and dined or getting a cookie cake or
waking up in the Tridell house, man.
I still can't get away from it. Trying my best to get away from the food and I can't. But ultimately they weren't doing
cookie
it,
cake.
There wasn't a dry thread on Dylan Raiola when I got a chance to talk to him on Saturday. He was soaked. And that's how hard they had worked, man. And they were out there for about an hour and a half, probably hour and 15 minutes, super muggy morning. And, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks throw, a lot of big time quarterbacks too, throw in these like laid back settings where it's not super competitive and the juices aren't flowing like that. And they're not as good normally, like they're not as locked in. He was locked in. He was accurate. And I think the thing that may impress me most and folks see this, saw this, if you saw what I wrote over there at DawgsHQ is, he ran that thing like a coach. He was barking orders. He was like, no, that wrong route, that kind of thing. And he was doing it in such a way that was encouraging, that was positive. And everybody's just kind of out there watching him work. And he was the look to leader of the entire group. I came away really impressed with Nye Carr. You want to talk about kind of a smaller cat that plays bigger, long arms, long limbs. He's a good looking athlete. Sokovie White's a good looking athlete. Was impressed with Ryan Williams. I'd seen him at Under Armour and felt like at Under Armour, he was probably a little bit more explosive than maybe he was on Saturday. Maybe dialing it back a little bit. Who knows? May have a ingrown toenail for all I know. It was a cool thing to experience, cool thing to watch because they were out there getting after it.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. How do we know this was more than just a social media opportunity, Jake Rowe? You were out there.
In what way?
Just stage posed just to make some ripples, make some waves for the gram. Was this? How do we know this was a legit hardcore Dylan Raiola's in town? He's the big dog. You listen to me now. I'm the captain of the ship.
The fact that his, like I said, he didn't have a dry thread on him. It wasn't anything super easy for him. He was out there working hard. They all were. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that they, enjoyed some attention and getting some videos out there and had some fun. But I think ultimately for him, it was a chance to be like, hey, let's come out here and see what we've got. Let's come out here and compete and see what each other's all about. I think it was multifaceted, in that way, because sometimes, like we talked to Joseph Jonah, Ajanye.
Yeah.
Talked to him, and he had a really interesting thing. If you haven't read it, come on over, please read it, about Trey Scott and his time sitting down with Trey Scott and how that impacted him as a player just in a few minutes. Sometimes whenever you're trying to recruit these guys or you're trying to, be the voice inside their head a little bit, go show off for them a little bit. Go say, hey, man, listen, I haven't thrown to you before. Let me come throw to you and you can see what I look like. And I think that's something that would probably kind of help him in his recruiting pitch. And, I think that was a big part of it.
I can tell you this, a bunch of teenage young men, if they're going to stage something, they're not going to do it at 8:00 in the morning. I mean, it's going to be a prime time, 5:00 after lunch. I mean, to get a bunch of guys like that with thousands of offers, they kind of learning to know each other a little bit, and they might talk on threads and all that, but to actually be in person and throw routes and be in front of each other, to go 20 miles up the road to a high school at 8:00 in the morning after you've been, busy, you're traveling all day, you're tired, and you're like, you know what, let's get up at 8 and let's go throw routes. That says a lot.
I asked that because I saw someone in the comments of one of our tweets or one of our posts saying it's amazing that there just happened to be cameras everywhere. And I think this was, once again, a Tennessee fan. I'm not joking. I think Tennessee fans really got upset by seeing this performance from all these Georgia targets, Georgia commits, and that Tennessee-Georgia rivalry is brewing stronger and stronger on social media every day. But that's just not how this works. And
I don't think they were really hoping we'd be out there. I didn't get I got the hey.
I mean, they had a video crew.
Yeah. I mean, I got the kind of the hey, you're here, cool, we're not gonna run you off type vibe, but I never got the hey, come on down. Where's that camera at? Get it out real quick, hurry.
You want to run some reps?
And asking for interviews after, it was real awkward. Listen, I hadn't done that in a long time. All right, I hadn't walked up and cold interviewed anybody in a long time, and I'll tell you this right now, you start to feel intimidated by 170-pound, 17-year-olds. Like, man, hey, man, listen, come on, man. I came on.
I got a cookie cake in my car, man.
Yeah. Please, can I have 30 seconds of an interview, and then I interview you for like 4 minutes?
Jake, I wanted to ask you, because one of the things that I think that you and I talked about that stood out to me was what you said about Dylan Raiola's build. And I don't know that it's something that comes across necessarily in photos.
Yeah. I thought, I'd seen photos of the kid and I was like, hey, he's, you'd seen the Big Ben comparisons and you're like, yeah, he kind of is Big Ben. He's kind of chunky. The kid's going to weigh 260 in the offseason type kid. No, he's put together like a linebacker. I mean, he's put together very similarly put together to Sammy Brown. Now, I don't think he's 6'4". I think that's probably a little much. But he's probably 6'2.5" and, right around 220 and maybe 215. He's in very, very good shape. Just a good looking athlete just in general, moves really well.
I was trying to pull up your photo story. Jake Rowe has an entire photo gallery of not just Dylan Raiola, but everyone that was in front of that lens over at Jefferson.
Palmer Collins actually wrote that story. I took the photos because
I didn't.
Jake Rowe did the legwork, and everybody else just.
We had so much going on, and so much back and forth, and so much.
It was just air raid sirens going on.
I think I finally told Palmer, I said, "Hey man, I have got to finish this one thing. Like I've got to finish one thing, or I'm going to feel like a failure."
I think I told you I pivoted from like 3 different interviews. I was like, "No, I'm pivoting to this now, pivoting to this."
Yeah.
Hey, my work here didn't take much. Charles Power wrote all those scouting. I just put the DawgsHQ logo on him.
Legendary day in Jefferson, Georgia, man. This is one of those things, one of those moments in Georgia recruiting that it just feels like, you know, you look at this class, you look back on it, people are going to be talking about this specific morning for a long time. And I don't know
there were 3 other outlets out there, and I want to say all 3 of them did a great job. I mean, all 3 of them did a fantastic job, you know, and they did their thing, and kudos to them too, because, you know, Saturday morning, there are a lot of them younger than I am, you know, and, you know, I've been up since about 5:30 goofing off, trying to have some alone time, watch some TV, not have anybody yelling at me, the kids, make me some cereal, stuff like that. So I was enjoying it. But then, you know, the thing came, and we're just trying to figure out, hey, are we going to go or are we not? And then it was like, go now.
Rusty said how freaked out he was. How freaked out were you to get a call from me at 8:00 on a Saturday morning? You knew something was going on.
I was worried that that old Otis had got locked up in the drunk tank.
That's what I told him. I thought it was going to be a collect calls. What I said.
I'm glad to know you guys would pick up though.
Bleeding out on a Copper Hill stoop.
No question.
We picked up. I was like, I got to take this one.
Speaking of legendary phone calls, Breaking Tea is I don't know why you'd call anyone about Breaking Tea, but we're going to tell you about it on the Georgia Show like we do every time we gather. There is a link to the Breaking Tea Georgia apparel and merch every time you listen to the Georgia Show on podcast or watch it right here on YouTube. There's just a wide variety of the Philadelphia Dogs gear, of course, and celebrating these back-to-back national champs. I don't know, guys. Could be some with a 3 on them. I'm not talking about Dale Earnhardt a year from now. We shall see. Maybe they should do a Dale Earnhardt. That would be an awesome crossover. Head on over to Breaking Tea and check out the next Georgia T-shirt in your collection. All right, I gave y'all some homework.
Such a big Kamari Lassiter fan.
What?
I know you're such a big Kamari Lassiter fan.
Oh yeah, Todd Gurley. Let's talk about the homework I gave you guys before we came on tonight. One quote from one prospect on campus this week. I said, pick one from one of these guys that really stuck with you, really raised your eyebrows. We'll go around the horn, go rapid fire. A lot of this stuff is behind our premium paywall over at DawgsHQ.com. So we're just going to give you a little bit of a taste, but I'll start with you, Jake Rowe.
You know, I wanted to go with, I would love to say what Joseph Jonah Ajanye, I think I got it right that time.
You're going to get it at some point.
About Trey Scott. Like that was eye-opening. I told Roos that, and Roos goes, geez. But I'm not going to say that. I'm going to tease that. I am going to say something that he said, though, which was, you know, listen, Georgia offers, he calls them his dream school. He goes in. He told me he went in at 255 and he came out 275. That's how much he ate. Maybe he and I just bond real tight over that. I don't know. But he said that Georgia is not high on his list, super high on his list. And he went ahead and he secured an official visit. That's huge for Georgia. And I think ultimately it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out long term. But you got the feeling from talking to him that Georgia had put itself in a really, really good spot. And I think if they press for him until he's ready to commit on August the 1st, I think they're going to have an excellent chance of getting him. And I think if you haven't watched this film, turn it on, because this is this cat. He's got one of those gas tanks like those F-150s had in like the mid 90s. One of those like 65-gallon tanks type deals. Flip from one to the other. This boy can go, and he plays hard. And I'm really interested to see how hard Georgia recruits him. Going forward.
He's got a neck like a 65-gallon tank too.
He does. He's got a neck like a Ford F-150, which means neck.
And and I tell people too, the cool thing about him is he's got that Nigerian heritage. He's not like a guy who's a Texas guy necessarily. Like he didn't grow up there. You get a guy on like that, 36 hours on campus, and he's locking in an OV. That's good stuff, man. That could be just what the doctor ordered. Would Georgia need a big D line haul?
All right. I'll just assign y'all out so we don't have that wonderful dead air. Roos, what's your quote?
I'm going to go with KJ Bolden, man. I was really struck with some of the stuff that he said. This one right here, that was actually going to be my quote. I visited Georgia a lot throughout my high school career. Today gave me a feeling this could be my home for the next 3 to 4 years. I feel like KJ Bolden, listen, there's no school, not even close, that he's visited as much as Georgia. But it felt like, to me, he was speaking a lot more emphatically coming off of this visit than he had previous visits. He was a little bit more caged before, and I feel like in this instance, I don't mean to say that there was necessarily like some sort of revelation or anything like that, but it felt like Georgia may have made a big step forward here for him, and they're going to get him back on campus in like 2 weeks. I mean, it's June 9th is his official visit. He'll be back, and he told me, I asked him, what's that visit about? You've taken all these visits to Georgia. What's left? And he said, we're getting real heavy into specifics, enrollment plans. We're talking about academics, my major, all this stuff. Georgia has that plan ready and in front of him. Listen, I'm not saying that he's going to break the Buford curse, but he might be the guy to break the Buford curse. He could be. I mean, he's speaking, like I said, he's speaking a lot more emphatically than I've ever heard KJ speak. And he's a guy who speaks from his heart, and he speaks very openly, and I always appreciate that about him. But you got to feel better about where Georgia stood post-visit, and I felt pretty good about where Georgia stood even prior to that visit.
Well, and the RPM backs it up too. I mean, Georgia made a massive move today after that visit. They went from, it was about 29% to over 60, big advantage over Clemson and the rest of the field. So the numbers back it up.
All right, Palmer, I'll go ahead and let you take it from there.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about something that I wrote about from the Dylan Raiola interview, which is on our YouTube. So go check it out. This one isn't behind a paywall. So the story isn't either. So check that out too. Made it an emphasis after I committed to build the best class ever. Dylan Raiola, he didn't just talk the talk this weekend. He walked the walk. We just talked about the entire workout. We don't need to go any more into that, but I think it's really impressive that this is a kid. We've talked about it before after his commitment. The Dylan Raiola effect, the fact that we saw it last year with Arch Manning in Texas, and that guys want to be around him. Look at the kind of talent that came to campus this weekend. A lot of those guys and the commits too made the decision. When they didn't have to be there. Some of them decided during the week after Dylan commits on Monday. They say, I kind of want to be around this kid on the weekend. I kind of want to see Georgia and experience it with Dylan Raiola. So he's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk, but I liked the way that he talked the talk there.
All right, I'm going to make y'all wait on Rusty because I know that he's the guy that you still want to hear from the most. And I'm going to dust off something that happened before this massive weekend even kicked off, no pun intended here. And it was the commitment of Rusty's favorite position on the football field, the punter. That's right, Drew Miller commits to the Dogs. And what does he say about Georgia? But he's excited to see how Georgia can get punters into the NFL. I don't know if anyone's ever said that about a school, a punter, anything in the history of college football. Georgia is punter U. So Drew Miller has my PU, baby. Drew Miller's my quote of the weekend. All right. Sorry, Rusty. Stole your thunder there.
I love it. I mean, the fact that Georgia landed the #1 player in the country earlier in the week, and then they finished it off with a punter. I mean, it Roos at one point texted like, "What the hell, man? What are we doing here? Like, this is living right now, man."
Yeah, I mean, Rusty Mansell. This isn't coincidence, folks. This guy comes to DawgsHQ. Georgia lands #1 player in America, #1 punter in America. It's the DawgsHQ
Piper for punters.
I'll give 30 seconds on why the punter has grown to this with me. And Jake Rowe was working with me at the time. And I came on the board at the previous location, and I said, hey, guys, Georgia's going to get one tomorrow, and it's an All-American. And that's all I said. And At the time, it was an All-American.
I remember this very,
Mark-
very well, and I wasn't at the same spot, and I was going
trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
So Marshall Long committed the next day as an All-American punter, and I'm telling you right now, the board was ready. They were ready to drag me through the streets of Florida County behind an El Camino, and I was like, you know what, I'm always going to have fun with a punter, and when I got word on this one, I thought, boy, this is too good to be true right here. And I talked to him on Thursday night, and I was like, Drew, one of the best interviews I've ever had, man. It lasted a minute and a half.
I mean, look at him, dude. What position do you think this guy plays? If you don't know, that he's a punter.
He plays quarterback. He plays. Yeah. I mean, this guy's an athlete now. Don't let me, downgrade his commitment. And I will tell you this: I am not a punter expert as much as you guys want me to be. But I will tell you, I had two different people tell me this might be the best punter they've seen in the last 8, 9, 10 years. Like this guy for Georgia to put a scholarship player in the 2024 class at punter tells you this dude's talented.
8, 9, 10 years includes Jake Camarda, who was a hell of a punter.
Yes. Yeah. But this guy's an athlete too, man. I mean, he plays different positions, plays all over the field. So, I don't want to downgrade his commitment. I know his dad's on DawgsHQ board. We're glad he's there, but I had fun, and I tell you what, I probably had the biggest smile of anybody in America Friday afternoon when I put that one out.
Are punter evaluations done differently than? Is there a different formula or a different way?
There's some guys that handle punters and kickers, and there's two guys that basically run the show in the country, and they do their rankings, and those guys go through their kicking camps and punting camps for years. So that's kind of how there's two guys that control it.
It should be noted that in the Coles rankings, which is typically what I look at for a guy like this, he's a 5-star kicker and a 5-star punter. He's both. I mean, he's number 24, I think, in kicker ranking in the nation, and number 1 punter.
Yeah,
man. Coles rankings, and they do a fantastic job, man.
But
this episode rocks.
Yeah, man. So I'll go to the question that got to the quote. I'll be simple with this. Cam McHale told Chad Simmons, and I quote, "I've said it before. Georgia is the new Alabama." And when you say that, that's strong. And he is a high-profile recruit. Kid out of Statesboro, Georgia. I went down and saw him earlier this winter. And he is put together. He's a sub-11 100-meter guy, plays basketball, really good athlete. So just to hear that quote, Georgia is the new Alabama. I mean, that's the question in college football. We can debate it and do this and do that, but when you have a high-profile recruit say that, it kind of tells you maybe that's what some other recruits are thinking. So, it's simple saying, but maybe a lot to that.
Yeah, amen. That's pretty simple and speaks volumes, I think, for a lot of people, not just for Georgia trying to entertain Michael himself. All right, we are pretty locked in on who the next Alabama could be. Last week, we teased something. We were talking about TCU, and Rusty gave me some homework and gave all of us some homework. I hope you guys took some notes here. We're going to get to the bottom of who the next TCU could be, as Georgia has another national championship matchup, hopefully looming as far as the Dogs are concerned. I think that we can probably agree Ohio State would have been a better national championship matchup. But when you look at the landscape of college football, and Rusty, you said, was it Lindy's that had TCU in the mid-40s? If we're thinking about a team that could be in that range this season, that could be knocking on the door of college football greatness, who do y'all have? I've got a couple on my list, and they're both in the SEC. And I'll start us off. I think Kentucky and or Mizzou. When you look at what those guys do, and it's because they play in the SEC. I know TCU is the Big 12, so that was a little bit different. They had a non-traditional path compared to a lot of other programs around the country. But Mizzou has shown that they can be pretty pesky. Now, luckily for Georgia, they don't have to go to that death trap in Columbia. And the same can be said for Kentucky. You get them between the hedges as well. I just think that these teams are tired of looking up at Georgia all the time, and I think they're a little bit better suited to do it than Florida. Tennessee doesn't count because everyone expects Tennessee to be good. Kentucky and Mizzou, maybe one of those two teams sitting back a little bit, could play above their means this season. So that's my pick. Kind of hedge my bet, but that's my pick for the next TCU in 2023.
I'll go, but I don't know that I'll say this team is going to make it as far as TCU did. But they've had a hell of a couple of weeks, and I mean a sneaky couple of weeks. And they play on the tough side of the division now. But Arkansas has really done really, really good in this portal the last couple of weeks. And they have gotten some guys and won some battles. And getting their quarterback back was a massive deal for this team. And you're talking about a team that won 9 games 2 years ago, had some injuries last year, took some teams so I think 3 years in a row. Jake Roos or Rowe may correct me here, Palmer. I think 3 years in a row or 2 years in a row, Arkansas has had the toughest schedule in the country of anybody, period. And now they're getting rid of Texas on there. They don't have to play Georgia out of conference. So I think out of league, I think that Arkansas is going to be a really, really sneaky team because they've got a unique quarterback that gives people issues. And if he can stay healthy, and they've added some key pieces there, I kind of remember watch Pittman out there. They're pretty sneaky.
Tough
That's
part
the
for
big.
them
That's the
is
big
that-
key for them.
And they got to go to LSU and Alabama and Ole
Mhm.
Miss. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like you said, it's the tough side of the division, and that's certainly a tough schedule.
And keeping KJ healthy is just massive for them. So, yeah, that's the difficulty there. Why not go with Colorado? Let's
Why
do
not?
Colorado real fast. I don't think it's going to happen. I just want it to happen.
No, and listen, would that not be the? I mean, people have said this. Listen, if Dion were to do something like that, I mean, if he were even to sniff, my God, if the guy gets over 500, it's a huge success. But people are saying, there's odds on them winning the national championship. I mean, you. Good Lord, yeah.
Hey, they play
Vegas is
Nebraska.
coming down.
They play Nebraska week 2. That'll be the most watched Colorado game since the 1990 national championship. Matt Rule and several Georgia guys will be in that game. I think
The Corn Dogs.
Bulldogs, baby.
there will be a lot of eyes on Nebraska going to Boulder week 2. Already started circling some games that kind of out of conference I'll be interested in, and that will be heck. It wouldn't even. I'm not going to say game day is going to be there. But
I was about to say it.
They might. That might be their chance for Dion to have a game day. Nebraska, and I didn't realize. I talked to Sean Callahan, our Nebraska guy, the other night, and by the way, does a great job for
The dude.
I mean, he's awesome. He is freaking awesome. But I talked to him, and he said, "Rusty, I know you don't know a lot about this rivalry, but man, neither one of these teams like each other. The fans don't like each other." He goes, "It's going to be a packed house out there." So I thought that was an interesting.
Colorado and Nebraska. What do they have against
That's
each
back in the day. Now the Big 8. That was,
I mean, both states are shaped like squares. I'm pretty sure, or something close enough to it. They all kind of look the same.
I believe Rick Riley went to Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. And I
Yeah.
remember reading in the back page of Sports Illustrated one time about he had this like paragraph about how awful Nebraska was and how they basically just woke up in the morning and did steroids, and then for a morning snack they did more steroids, and then they all shot each other up with steroids for the rest of the day instead of going to class. It was pretty
Heck of an
vicious.
allegation there.
They do not like each other.
I did some research. College game day won't be going there. They'll be going to Tuscaloosa to see Texas and Alabama.
Oh, see,
All right,
that-
you heard
that-
it
that
here
would-
first.
Well, that
but
was
I'll
my
tell
pick.
you this: if Dion gets them over them, you will hear some rumblings
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
because
That was
Alabama's
my pick.
Alabama's got other games left. This would be their only chance, in my opinion, to get a game day at Dion. But that'd be crazy to pass up Alabama, Texas.
No,
Yeah,
that was-
I'm not
that was-
writing them off next season. This season seems a little too soon.
No, like I said, that That was my scrappy pick. Was Alabama? Those scrappy guys that didn't make the
Yeah.
CFP playoff
Right.
last year. Maybe they can battle their way back in and be a surprise. to
Alabama,
people.
this year's TCU. I like that.
Team most likely to get beat by 56 against Georgia. No, I don't think it's Alabama. Listen, there's a lot of hype around this team, and so it's not like it's like a weird pick or anything necessarily, but I just really don't know what to make of Florida State. I think Florida State can be really good. It's really about if Florida State will be really good. How you're going to find out, I think, a lot about Mike Norvell, and I think a lot of people in Tallahassee are going to find out a lot about Mike Norvell or how they feel about Mike Norvell this season. They're definitely one to watch. And then the other one that always lingers out there, in my opinion, is Utah. I mean, Kyle Whittingham is one of the great coaches in this game. He always recruits well. He always stacks talent. Utah can never be written off when Kyle Whittingham is at the helm there. So I'll say Utah's got the best chance to be the surprise that TCU was last year.
Yeah, it's just that Pac-12 curse, it feels like, man. When's the last time the Pac-12 got a team into the national championship? Off the top of my head,
Or
Oregon
2014
against Auburn?
Was it
Ohio
Oregon?
State. Yeah.
Oregon, Ohio State. I mean, that was an eternity ago.
And then it was Oregon before that against Auburn in
Yep.
2010. So I've been looking at the comments. There's two that I've seen, and two that they were two of the four that I identified. Washington, as we continue along with that Pac-12 theme, they're not quite as down in the dumps as TCU was, but returning Penix at quarterback, he's certainly capable. And talking about quarterbacks, North Carolina, Drake May, I see that one in the comments as well. The other two teams that I had, and I'll go with this one because I think it fits the TCU narrative a little bit. Well, first, Ole Miss was one that I had thought, and that's another team that Georgia's got to play. Wes, you mentioned Kentucky and Missouri. Wrote about Kentucky last week, writing about Ole Miss and Missouri this week. So come check those pieces out. But Wisconsin is the one that I'll go with. First-year head coach there. You look at their schedule. They bring in a couple transfer quarterbacks, but you look at their schedule. They get Ohio State at home, which I think is big, and that's a tough place to play. And then you avoid Michigan, you avoid Penn State. You get Iowa at home, Illinois and Indiana and Minnesota on the road. It's just not all that tough of a schedule because, as we talked about with Arkansas, that's the tough side of the conference. That's the tough division there. Wisconsin's in the easy division of the Big Ten, and they go to Washington State. So I guess that would be their big out of conference game. But nothing all too intimidating about Buffalo and Georgia Southern. And then
Whoa. Come on. Statesboro could be tuning in.
And Florida may disagree. But no, I think you look at that Big Ten schedule and it's pretty manageable. First-year head coach in Luke Fickell, somebody that I think has a track record of getting a team to a playoff. I'll go with I will go with Wisconsin as mine.
All right. Let's get to some.
Wait, I got one more, and I think that it's a team that lives and dies by one guy, and it's South Carolina.
I was about to.
If Spencer Rattler is the Spencer Rattler we saw at the end of the year, they could possibly even take a loss to a team like Georgia, because I don't see them overcoming Georgia. But if you overcome Clemson and they got North Carolina on that schedule next year, that would be a very interesting team if he's able to produce.
Yeah, some strength of schedule for sure.
Yeah.
And
if you're going to do something like that, it's quarterback play. If you're going to do something like that, you're talking about Washington, it's got to take a Penix. It's going to take a Spencer Rattler. It's going to take something like that to a KJ, at Arkansas.
A Max Duggan last year.
Yes. So to neutralize some things, it takes a dynamic quarterback, and those are great picks by both of y'all.
Shedeur Sanders.
One of these teams will be playing against Georgia in the national championship.
Shedeur and Dion going to ride Ralphie out in midfield.
Man, Ralphie is such an underrated mascot.
Would Ralphie make the trip to Houston, we think? I mean, is Uga
You
didn't make the trip
you
to-
think Dion's going to leave anything behind in the circus, buddy?
Not
He's bringing
one
the
thing.
tilt-a-whirl.
No.
He's bringing the
Faro
whole thing.
Field, mate. They may put Faro Field on the back of like a few semis and bring it out. I mean,
bring the
Uga
whole-
didn't make the trip to LA. Is Ralphie going to make the trip to Houston?
Oh, they got Uga is mascot royalty. Ralphie's a dime a dozen. I think they bring backup Ralphie's.
And Matthew C over here is saying, y'all laugh. Shadir Sanders is a great quarterback. I completely agree with you, Matthew. I think he is a fantastic.
yeah, but he ain't elevating that deflation.
There's a lot of he can't
He
lift
can only
like
take
that.
it so high. I'm making fun of my own pick now, but hey, if y'all ever had a bison ribeye, you'd love to have a Ralphie in your backyard right now. I know that.
All right.
We can write off PETA for any sponsorship.
I don't think that was in the cards ever, Rusty. All right, dog stocks. Stock up on the mailman. I mean, as always, the NFLPA, I don't know what
is that?
what happened here, how they got this going, but the NFLPA got a lot of the rookies. It looks like, I assume these are all rookies.
Yeah, they do. So they do a jersey reveal. If you get drafted, you do a rookie symposium. You do a jersey reveal, and you all have to come out there for all your pictures, for your cards, and all that kind of stuff.
It's
So
45
this
of them.
photo is the NFLPA took this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all the rookies. They're in their full uniform. Sorry for our podcast listeners. Sitting at a table eating food with their helmets on, but Stetson appears to be the only guy who's not feeling it.
He's not hungry.
Just stock up on Stetson being Stetson, man.
Stetson thought he had some media stuff to worry about when he was at Georgia.
He's too used to eating off the floor, boys.
Hey, amen. There you go, Jake Roos. But stock up on Stetson Bennett. It's just everything he does just kind of adds to the allure of Stetson Bennett, and I thought that was pretty funny today.
Awesome.
Who's next? Stock report.
I'll jump in before Rusty steals it.
You better not say it. You better, if you take it off, you're out.
All right, take it away. Take it away.
No, do not let him intimidate you.
Take it away, Rusty. I'll pivot.
You can both tag team the
Go
stock.
to On3 HR about this, Palmer. This is not you. You don't have to take this, okay?
HR is my department. I need a complaint in the morning.
Take it, Rusty.
If they go to Oklahoma, me and Ro are going to ride out there. We're just going to rent a car. Just go for the whole week.
Hey, listen, I do want to get us like a Lightning SUV or Lightning RV sponsorship. We drag one out there.
Well,
I'll
Build
go
the
Lightning
whole
RV.
thing.
Well, good. I'll go stock up that with the girls softball team and Sydney Chamley. I mean, what the weekend she had, and kind of I watched them a good bit because of Lindy Ray and my connection with them. And but I'll tell you what she did this weekend. I think she had 12 RBIs, 4 home runs. I think she was 4 for 4 today. So they hit the ball so good. This is going to be a big series for them at Florida State next weekend. And they got a really good draw if they were to get to Oklahoma City. Looks like they'd play Oklahoma State, which is probably a team they would be willing to play over others. So it will be interesting.
Oklahoma State last time they went.
I think so. And then Oklahoma State had a pitcher, which was ironic that the girl got down to Georgia and Oklahoma State, and she transferred to Oklahoma State. So they lost out a kid, and she put him out, I think. But you look at this team, and they can hit, man. 1 through 9 can hit, and they had pitching this weekend. So it's going to be fun to watch it next weekend in Tallahassee to see what happens with that team. But the way they're hitting right now, and I know some people that are close to them, they're really upset with how they got seeded and how some other teams in the SEC were seeded above them. And it looks like Alabama with Fouts out, who's probably the most popular player in girls softball, Montana Fouts. Looks like she didn't play at all this weekend. Who knows if she'll be back. So you never know what can happen, but this team right here, stock up at this weekend and big series in Tallahassee coming up. I think they'll announce the dates later tomorrow or something. They'll play Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or they'll play Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
They rake. They hit the ball.
They hit the ball. They hit it. Yep.
All right, Palmer, what's yours going to be now?
Well, I honestly haven't pivoted, but stock up on Rusty for knowing about softball. Stock up on somebody else knowing about a non-Georgia football sport. There we go.
All of that, that's not what gets me. That's not what gets me. All of that time Rusty just spent talking about softball. You couldn't find another topic to talk about.
All I could think was, damn, Rusty's
Palmer's
right
just
here.
amazed, just mesmerized
He's right.
with Rusty's softball knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What? How about I'll give you one, Palmer. Brandon Walker with Barstool.
Oh God.
Stock down.
Again, poking the bear on
Man,
Georgia's crowd noise.
Stock down on that mouth breather to begin with. I can't imagine how much money he makes with Barstool, and he's worthless.
I mean, just stock down on bringing the take up.
I don't say anything bad about anybody, but I mean, I can't help myself with that cat. Sorry.
I mean, why does it even need to get brought up? I did not listen to the full episode. I don't even know why it came up again. But I think by this point, no one in Athens is trying to claim that this is like Death Valley or anything, but it's still got a pretty dang good environment.
He said Georgia was, or that Sanford Stadium was not a top 5 in the SEC.
He listed them behind Auburn, and here's what I'll say.
Did.
Auburn a couple years ago, I mean, Georgia just scraped out of there in 2019. It wasn't that long ago.
It's a fluctuating list.
Well, I agree with Roosh.
It depends on when it is.
10 years ago, Auburn was a more intimidating environment than Athens. There's no question about that in my mind. I mean, you would go in, and I mean, they're loud and they're close to the field in Auburn. Jordan Air has a great atmosphere. There's no denying that. Georgia now under Kirby Smart, though, has climbed those ranks in a major way. I think that, listen, you go back to that Notre Dame game, the night game with the lights going.
The Arkansas noon game.
Yeah.
Arkansas noon, Tennessee
this past year.
I mean, yeah, dude. Listen, it's a fluctuating scale. Historically, would you say that Georgia is a top 5 environment? I probably wouldn't. I think that his list might have been accurate in that respect.
I agree.
But I think that in the moment, I think that that's incorrect to say.
Yeah,
What's
I agree.
The loudest game? What's the loudest game y'all have been to? Because I was having this discussion with somebody
Georgia
else.
Blackout 2007.
Anywhere? That's the loudest anywhere?
No, the loudest anywhere was when was LSU and Death Valley when they played neck.
Which one?
Again with Fromm.
18,
I'll show you my age. I was at LSU 2003 when they threw that touchdown pass in the last second of the game against David Pollock and them. And I'm telling you, that place it was about to come out off the hinges there because we just had thrown a 90-yard screen to Tyson Browning.
Little Tyson Browning.
Skylar Green behind Tim Jennings.
Yeah. Matt Mock. Was it Matt Mock, quarterback?
I believe so.
Yeah, wasn't he like a dentist or something?
It was all he could do, man. Quentin Moses just blows by the guy, and he stepped past him and just throws it and Skylar Green just.
Yeah, Tim Jennings had tried to look back at the quarterback for a split second and lost him for like.
That was the loudest. That's the loudest I've ever been in any stadium ever for me.
I was at the blackout game, and I was at Auburn in 2017, which was also insane.
I will say though, Ro, that game, that crowd noise. I'm not saying it was Roddy White with the Falcons or anything manufacturing the crowd noise. That was more manufactured to me because they were playing the Jumbotron
But that's okay. That's okay. I mean, for years, I think you talk to Georgia fans and they're like, dude, we're playing freaking Elton John and damn Candlebox.
I felt that way.
You know what I mean? Like, get some
Brown-Eyed Girl is not getting the crowd going.
We're hunting, we're doing the hide the shell thing and all that, and
Yeah.
You go to
Come
freaking
on, man.
Alabama and Auburn, it's
Find the
Yeah,
front.
we all live in the yellow submarines, not doing very well when you're trying to hunker down one more
I
time.
think
Okay.
the few days at Georgia have gotten better, and I can assure you, Kirby Smart's probably had something to say about that because he's
Josh Brooks. I mean, before Josh Brooks got the AD job,
Josh Brooks as well.
Shout
he
out
was
to Sir
cranking a
Foster,
lot of those
too, man.
dials.
Sir Foster also bringing the noise.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, to the point, I was saying, you know, I was at some of those games. I was at that game that Roos is talking about at LSU. I've never witnessed anything in my life like Georgia Tennessee this past year.
That's where I was going.
That was y'all. When I tell you, like it felt like it was kind of like it felt like you were like you'd swam down 20 feet. It felt like there was pressure coming in on you, and it's an open air press box, so I know that there's probably a little bit more there than maybe in other places, but that was insanity. Like from the opening kickoff and when Stetson got away and scored on that play, when Stetson hit Lab McConkey for that touchdown, when those sacks, when it was raining and people were just going bananas.
They got louder.
Yeah, it got wild as that game went on. I mean, they smelled blood. Those fans did, and they got challenged. So
yeah, Jake and I sat next to each other, and we were having to yell to each other.
Yeah, we were for sure.
Hey, I just say, keep saying it. Keep doubting Georgia's crowd noise because it just makes everyone in there louder. All right, who do we still have?
By the way, South Carolina, come
yes.
hell or high water.
Yes.
If you want to talk about, all right, we're bad, it's still loud. We're good, it's still really loud. It's South Carolina. Nobody maintains that even keel as well as South Carolina does.
It's intimidating to be on that field. It really is. I've shot photos down there, and when that rooster starts crowing and those people are just going bananas, and it feels like they're on your back. Man.
Well, yeah, because there's about this much room between the back of the end zone and.
But if you give them something to get loud about, they're going to get loud like they are 10-0 if they're 0-10.
Yes.
Yeah. It feels like
beat on the back of those seats.
Feels like Halloween in Iraq. It's hot in that place. It's the hottest place on the galaxy is Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, dude. When hell comes to earth, it's going to bust open a couple big double doors right below that city.
Yes,
and
they're going to play Sandstorm.
I don't know what it is, man. I went on a boys trip about 4 years ago when DeAndre Baker picked that pass off, and 4 grown men with a pass for the day drink 95 waters. I mean, it's the hottest day. I got to the stadium. I was like, I can actually have a drink. And we're like, oh, my God, where's the water? Like all day long. I mean, it was hot. There were people falling out behind us. There was, won't mention her name, but there was a coach's wife who was on the staff sitting 2 rows behind us, and they had to take her out of the crowd because, I mean, it just got so hot. I mean, it was crazy. I know that Georgia, that was the second game of the year. So Georgia did a lot of their summer workouts in July. They started at 3:30. And that was the reason why.
This past year they brought their own AC unit, and it wasn't even supposed to be nearly as hot. And
but it got hot as hell.
It
just did. It couldn't help itself.
Yep.
It couldn't help itself.
Yep.
All right, bro. You, me, I don't care.
I'll go. Stock up on DawgsHQ again. I mean, I told the guys in the text message earlier today, I've been doing this for 11 or 12 years. I've never seen as much VIP premium plus information that as we put out this weekend from a big official visit weekend. We've seen bigger visit weekends, dog nights and things that, they just simply were. Just in terms of the number of people involved, they weren't as well organized or probably weren't as effective. But in terms of that many people getting a chance to see it and be around it, there were bigger weekends at Georgia. We crushed it. We killed it. And that's why you're listening to the show, and hopefully that's why you're a subscriber to our site, because we did a good job this weekend. Hopefully we keep doing it.
It started with a punter, so I'll just say
that. I tell
you, the field, baby.
Y'all don't like special teams, but you see what special teams did for the weekend? We get a 25 stars working out Saturday morning because they got a punter on Friday.
All right, Mountain Jake.
All right, I'm going stock up on my poker analogy that I used earlier today because listen, Doyle Brunson passed away, one of the greatest poker players of all time this past week, man. One of those guys that you tuned in to watch, man. Texas Dolly, just an incredible guy. And somebody said, "How do you feel about the chances with Georgia and Jeremiah Smith?" And I said, "Listen, man, it's like poker. You got a chip and a chair. You're in this thing, man. That's all you can ask for. I'm not saying your chances are good. I'm not saying they're strong. But if you keep hanging around long enough, you never know what's going to happen. And that's always what it is with guys like that. It's always how it goes down at the World Series of Poker. I think Georgia is in, like I said, as good of a spot as they could hope to be for a guy who's committed somewhere else. You got a chip and a chair. Let's see how it plays out. He's been pretty clear he's taking this thing to signing day, and that seems like it bodes well for Georgia's chances as well.
In that vein, Aiden Cruz asking us in our comments, which skill position players do you think that Dylan Raiola will bring with him out of the 2024 class if we had to pick today? We will leave you we'll leave you hanging on that one just for a few days. We're going to percolate on it, think about it, pray about it, and we'll be back 9 or 8:30 right here on the DawgsHQ YouTube channel with another live edition of the Georgia Show. And dive into that a little bit more and kind of play some hypotheticals because we don't have all the answers right now. And even if we did, we wouldn't share them right here on the show. We wait a little bit longer because this weekend in and of itself was worthy of celebrating. If you're a Dogs fan, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And Jake, what's the deal on Bark After Dark this week?
Bark After Dark, we have Secretary of State. No, it's not Secretary. Sooner Scoops, Eddie Radosevich.
I thought you were about to say Condoleezza Rice.
And if you and listen, if you like Twitter, if you're on Twitter, you've probably seen Eddie Radosevich's stuff, and he's one of the funniest men in America. And I hope he brings the funk tomorrow night on Bark After Dark because he's very funny. And then hopefully I'm just going to go ahead and pin him down right now. We're going to hopefully have Rusty next Monday again. So we're going to do a wrestling podcast.
Let me tell you something. I have got somebody for you.
Rusty,
I have got somebody for you in place of me. And this guy is so good that I probably would just sit in to listen to his answers. So I had a little surprise for y'all boys. So Bark After Dark.
I don't like punters like you do, Rusty. If it's
Butler.
It's Gordon Ely Kelso, all right?
I will tell you this.
Brian Mims.
I'll say this right now. Neither one of y'all know, and I won't tell you for a couple of days. You will not have a guest ever on Bark After Dark that knows more about Georgia football inside that building than the guy you will have on.
Okay. Lauren Smith. Oh, yeah.
Brian Gant, baby. Let's go.
I'm just telling you, you two are going to love this one, and I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a hell of a show, and I'll get on just to watch it. And I thought about it today, and I called him up, and he agreed to it. So I had a surprise for you guys.
Rock and roll.
I'm excited.
I'm excited. That.
Yep.
Jake, you do know that that's Memorial Day?
Yeah.
Why you bring up old stuff, Palmer?
Let's do it.
Hey, listen, that's the best time, Bart. Everybody comes home and got it.
We're going to be lubed up. I promise you that,
brother. What do you think Copperhill, Tennessee's going to be done on Memorial Day? It's going to be the best Bark After Dark ever.
My liver will not be pristine.
All right. Y'all have a great week. Keep your livers pristine, please. Join us again next time we're here. See ya.